Just minutes ago, I was overflowing with ideas on how to write this, how to share it with you in the most tactful way possible. Only since sitting at my desk have I realized that I can't tactfully share this at all. I gotta preface this with a disclaimer that stalking is wrong, don't do it, and even though everything that I did in this video and everything that I mentioned is totally legal, and I was just being a search engine creep, it's still weird. Don't be weird or creepy. Okay, let's start. It starts way back in the days of Newgrounds, Albino Black Sheep, and You're the Man Now Dog. Kinda nostalgic, right? Yeah, that's how I felt. I was going through all of these old flashes I used to watch as a kid when all of this hit me. There was one series I watched a long time ago. It was the kind of thing where you loved it as a kid, but when you got back into it as an adult...
The following was brought to you by a couple of blue guys with strong opinions.
I have a dancing stick figure on my head.
The previous was brought to you by a couple of blue guys with strong opinions.
I like orange Tic Tacs.
The web series that I'm talking about was, of course, Bloo Toons. I'm still unsure of how big it truly got, as it was hosted and rehosted again and again without proper view counters. I'd mentioned it to my friends and they hadn't heard of it, which surprised me. When I was younger, I thought it was much bigger. So much so that as a 10-year-old, I thought the creator must have been busy as hell and super popular. Even still, I added the guy on AOL Instant Messenger to say that I loved his Flash cartoons. That is an old sentence. This was 2006 or 7? I remember him being confused, and I wish I still had the chat log, but it was about as embarrassing as you could probably imagine. His name was Steve, as you could tell from the credits of any episode of the Flash series, and I told him I loved his cartoons and that his work inspired me. He was flattered and regarded it as hobby work that he wasn't too proud of. I did the math now, and I realized that I was 10 and he was 14 or 15 at the time. I had no idea. The conversation ended on an awkward and weak note. Not long later, and we're talking less than a month later, he stopped putting out episodes. Being an anxious preteen who was convinced the world revolved around them, I was worried it was because I had bothered him and he had just decided he was done with it. Not long after that, the site went down altogether, which originally hosted the series, and I was devastated. About a year later, the series was re-uploaded and archived. I assumed it was by Steve, and I felt some relief that he was doing okay. I didn't contact him, though, in fear that it would bother him again. Let's fast forward to 2011. I'm reminded of the cartoon and I get curious again. I look into who hosted the archive and find it's someone who still makes content, but it wasn't Steve. Who was he? Well, I found out he had a Tumblr, so I sent him an anon, and his reply left me with more questions. He said roughly, Steven, the creator, disappeared. He's been gone since 2007. If you remember the cartoon I was making at the time, I had to get a new voice actor to replace him. He just plain up and vanished. Wish I could say more. He went on to say the series was awful, which, in retrospect, creators feel that way about old stuff pretty often. He concluded his reply with, I kinda miss him though. He was a cool dude. And I backed up the series for nostalgia's sake. I have everything except for the last episode, which has been lost to the ether for all I know. And I'm like, which was the last episode? Honestly, it's a little weak of me to admit, but I care less about the content than I do the date it was originally published. If it's gone, it's gone. I remember searching for hours back then, only coming up with the same guy that I'd already messaged on Tumblr. I hadn't been able to find Steven on Facebook either because his name was, too generic, and I had no idea where he lived. I was at a dead end. Might as well give up. I'll never know what happened to him. Fast forward again. It's 2016. I referenced the cartoon in passing to Zach, and he's like, what are you referencing? So I'm like, oh man, check out this piece of my childhood, and the archive is still up. I show him a couple episodes, and we quickly realize that a lot of the old Flash cartoons that we loved as kids lost a bit of their magic. But I become curious all over again. I start searching, I completely forgot about the ask I sent the other guy, and I stumble upon it. It was surreal. But it put me back on the same track I'd abandoned 8 years ago. Name Googling brought me nowhere, as someone with the same name did his own stuff and had an active LinkedIn profile. I had to be more specific. I needed usernames. I looked into his old flashes, which remained on Albino Black Sheep, completely unrelated to Bloo Toons, mind you. I got a username. And MySpace. He had a band? He had a band! He played at Chain Reaction, which was interesting. I searched that. Dead end. When you reach a dead end, you pull back. You probably missed a step that led to a different path. His Albino Black Sheep name. Maybe he used that on YouTube? Bingo. Abandoned account, though. Here's where things get interesting, in my opinion. He uploaded an episode of Bloo Toons to YouTube. Not only that, but I'd seen this very specific upload before. And I bet you're thinking it would have been so much easier if you'd started your search here. But I wouldn't have known this account was even him, and this wasn't like episode 1 or a demo. This was just episode 9 randomly. In 2008, I would have just thought this was a re-upload from someone completely unrelated. So let's check out what's on the account. No recent activity, of course. Everything stopped 8 years ago. The videos were strange and unrelated to anything I'd known from Steven. I found a video of him riding a carousel with his friends, and it was actually edited and polished, but it had no purpose, theme, explanation. It felt eerie. It ended with the video inverting, with the sound of a heartbeat and static. This stuff was absolutely nothing like his cartoons, and at this point I realized I knew nothing about this person. There was no doubt I was lurking in stuff that was not my business. It's hard to explain though, because when the information's all there, and it's been there, in public, on the internet, for anyone to see for 8 to 10 years, how can I not be curious? On that same channel, he uploaded a song cover, and he looked like he was like a high schooler. The last video on his account was a minute long while he poked at a plate of beans and made anti-Semitic jokes. But I'll cut him some slack, we were all shittier people in 2008. He made this easy on me. He was only subscribed to 5 people, and 1 account had his name. He moved accounts! 19 subscribers, 13 videos, no likes. Last updated 6 years ago. These are the titles of the videos. Why We Hurt Ourselves, Part 1, Part 2. Loving Yourself, Part 1, Part 2. An Introduction to Me. The Silliness of Atheism, uh-oh. I Don't Like the Term Worldview. Radical Honesty. Undisciplined. Sympathy. Sympathy, Personal Rebuttal, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. These were all vlogs, unedited, 10 minutes each, aside from the last video. And it was surreal, because he looked so much like someone I knew in my past, so there was this heightened sense of worry if he was okay. I mean, he's like 17 in these videos, or so, but it was 6 years ago. A lot changes in a person in 6 years. The last video on his channel, the only one that wasn't 10 minutes, he says the following.
Pretty soon I'm going to be making a video on something I'm excited about. So, it's a theory that I have. Oh, I've been thinking, and I think it's really exciting, and I would love to hear absolutely everybody's opinion on it. I think that will be coming soon to a YouTube near you, and when it does, I really want to hear people's opinions on it. Yeah, have a good time. Enjoy your life, my friends.
That was the last thing he posted. No updates. Dead ends. Pull back. Dead ends. Pull back. Dead ends. Pull far, far, far back. Who liked the Facebook page? Who posted to the Facebook page? There's visitor posts. Very few, though. A couple fans, someone who uploaded all the episodes to YouTube. His name's Steve, but the last name's not the same, not the guy. Someone who liked the show, someone who stumbled in on nostalgia fumes, and the first visitor post, if you scroll all the way down, was, "Hey, I like this show. Oh yeah, I made it too. Oh, the joy of nostalgia." I went to the profile, last updated, 2011, of course. Well, let's see what we can find out what happened in the in-between. All of his posts were public, very few pictures of himself, but this was him, no doubt. His last post on Facebook said, "No more phone. I officially am completely cut off from the family." He did some scrolling. This was at midnight on a weekday on my phone. He was in Texas, and Phoenix, and SoCal? He defined himself as a hitchhiker in a post. He'd been traveling a lot. He had a very official way of typing, too. Very proper, very formulated. More like someone who was writing articles about his own life, and less like someone who was just casually posting statuses to Facebook. I scrolled down fast. Got new jobs, left old ones, entered a relationship, moved out, depression. He used the word disturbed to describe himself a few times. Links to old private YouTube videos, and a status that read, "I really want to travel one day." I caught myself smiling, knowing that he made that dream a reality. I found an old DeviantArt with a different username that he linked to, which was a dead end, but I'm already on a lead. Scroll back up, what was the very last note that he posted? Well, it was long. It was about his travels. Seemed like another dead end, but it ended on a positive note. and he signed off with a different name, a PS that it was a name he was trying out for fun. Felix Walker. And I thought, wait a second. The guy who re-uploaded everything in 2013, the guy who posted on Facebook most recently on the Bloo Toons fan page, and with the series he uploaded a quick vlog to introduce it, but no explanation. This is the third YouTube account I'd found. This one had 10 subscribers. Nothing but episode clips. Back up. The Facebook account. Steve Walker. Funnily enough, his description says, well, this guy is interesting, let's see what he does. And it's up to date. Last post was 2 days ago. A new photo, and he legally changed his name. He's still traveling. He's a musician. He plays shows. He looks so different. And he looks happy. And I'm gonna admit, as selfish as it is to say, it was so personally relieving for me. Looking at his old posts, it seemed like he'd hit his own dead ends a few times, but he always found a way to back up and head forward, even if the path he chose seemed to be a difficult one. Funnily enough, afterwards I was able to find another YouTube account updated 2 years ago with more videos about hitchhiking and traveling, and the last videos were aptly titled Working with Fear and Life is Meant to be Grand. Honestly, as uplifting as this may be, if I had found this channel so much sooner, I would have saved myself a lot of panic. I wrote all of this out in a notepad document that I'm reading from right now, and I hesitated to send him a friend request. It'd only be right to ask him if this was okay to share. Over the course of a few hours on a weekday night, I watched a man grow and change and move, and thankfully find a better place for himself. As I'm sure you could gather, he got back to me. I sent a draft version of this video to Steve, and his main responses were, one, he felt really bad about the anti-Semitic joke he told when he was in, high school. He had been hitchhiking throughout the US, and he was in far more states than I had figured. It blows my mind because all of the content in this video equaled up to over 10 minutes, as you can see, but that's nothing compared to everything else. I'm going to leave it in the description for you to check out if you want to. Also, he sent me this video.
Hello, Stephen Walker here. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for checking this whole crazy thing out. I was hoping somebody would follow it at some point, and it happened. So I'm in Los Angeles and I'm making music all the time, and it's what I do now. So see you guys. Have fun. Live a good life.
Well, the episode's over.